for the introduction. Again, my name is Michael Johnson, and my talk is performing sound picture for video game sound design, but I think you can probably just getting paid for making cool sounds. I think would be the better title. Right now, I'm currently employed at Blizzard Entertainment in Design, California. And a quick background about me: I've been doing sound design for about 16 years. I got my background my capybara about 8 years ago. I worked on some games, some films, and some commercials.
Better now? Yeah. Oh, should I back up? I'm sorry. All right. Anyway, again, Mike Johnson. I work at Blizzard in Irvine, California. Some stuff I've worked on, and how I got interested in So I started when it was the capybara 20, and I stumbled across it because as a sound designer, you're always looking for that next tool or plug-in or piece of hardware that kind of gives you that competitive edge kind of thing when you're thrown in a room with other talented or more talented sound designers. You need to have something to make you kind of stand out a little bit. So you're always on the hunt for new techniques and processes. I actually, when I first moved to LA, I paid money to tour a studio, which actually was Frank Serafin's studio. And as I was walking through it, I was kind of making a mental note of everything that was in all the racks. And I was going down the rack and I saw this black box with blue light on it, with lighting on it, and I'm like, what in the world is this thing, you know? And this is pre-internet, so I couldn't just, you know, type up capybara, so I'm like, what is this thing? And so I started asking around, and finally some people in remote lows, I sent away for the demo of this when I was working at this commercial facility, and I got it, and I listened to the demo, and I'm like, oh my god, I got that one. Problem is that it was astronomically expensive at the time for me, because I was making so I tried to get my employer, Steve Dewey at the time, to buy one from me for about 5 years. And I was doing commercials at the time, so he saw it was a good device to get, but I was going to spend way too much time trying to get stuff out of it. And commercials have a really fast turnaround time, so I see why he didn't let me get one. But the problem is that I didn't get it. So I finally had to save enough money, and finally bought one on my own. I have used it actually for more than 10 years, but I put 8 years because I probably had a 2-year relationship, called a paid relationship, which I think Charlotte and Kurt know I vented one time on my frustration about, I thought it was going to be a quick, easy fix, where I would get this magical box and I just run sounds through it and just amazingly I'll be a great sound designer. Well, that was a hard lesson to learn. And so basically I took their advice and everyone else's advice. It was just like, you know, read the manual or read the FE manual, basically, and experiment, reverse engineer the stuff is in there. Then finally, you know, after taking those little baby steps and, you know, getting frustrated and crashing and burning and then learning from those experiences and finally, you know, put it in the corner and just kind of staring at it and touching it. And then you go, all right, I'll touch it. You know, it's sort of like, you know, sometimes you have relationships like that, but I had a relationship like that, and finally got to the point where I actually got repeatable results on some projects that I was working on that actually impressed people and made my work stand out as well. So, one of the projects I worked on was the God of War franchise when I was working at Sony, and the real-time aspect of it is that I was audio post manager, so all the cutscenes that came through for the games, I would work on dual audio post, and from PS2 games all the way to PS3 games. And I believe this was the last PS3 game that I worked on. So I was working on the cutscenes or the cinematics, as they'll call them, the linear movies. So I was actually working to a quick time movie. I also did some additional in-game sound effects for Forza and Foley and animations. So one of the things, there was a lot of different characters, and there was a big character called Hades, which is, you know, toward the end world, had to make him sound really demonic. His voice had to sound kind of like really creepy and scary, and when you finally came across this guy, you had to be like, oh, wow. But still had to be intelligible because, you know, they have to get for a nice voice actor, and if you go too far, they say, well, that sounds great, but it doesn't sound like the actor repeats $20,000. So, you know, you have to dial it back to the point where you're totally frustrated. All right. So anyway, In this example of this Kima project, I used sample clouds, a spectral analysis, and just a sample playback, and then I recorded all this into Pro Tools, did some more post-processing, and then spread it around in quad field when I was doing the 5-1 semantics. So this is the hat that I did. Again, not very complicated. But again, you know, I don't think anything have to be too complicated to get really good results. So I have 4 sample clouds loaded up with all the different versions of his read, and then a spectral analysis of one of the reads, and then playback, and I mix all that stuff together. And ultimately, there was reverb and bass enhancement and all that stuff post that. But see if it actually fires up. So. So this is sort of the end result prior to mixing and surrounding, panning and surrounding.
This time, you won't believe anything.
So when you come into this chamber, it has to be something like, oh wow, you know, I had a lot of echo, it had to sound, you know, big and menacing and scary. So, that was one example. Let me go back. Okay, so next project that I used the Kima on was I got hired at Blizzard and I worked on World of Warcraft Cataclysm. And the task at hand we had to do for this was that there was a lot of elementals, and there was this new area in the game called Deep Home, which is subterranean. And I had to make a sound, a exertion set, which is kind of like all the future sounds that it would make when you attack it. So, you know, it alerts when you first run into it, like, ah, when you come get you. And then attack when it hits you, wounds when it gets hit, and then deaths and other things. So what we first did is we got actors in the vocal booth to record exertion. So actually an actor that specializes in making creature sounds with their voices would come in there and, you know, yell and scream and attack and growl and all that sort of thing. And we would record that as like a starter. And then I took a whole bunch of rock sounds that were in our sound effects libraries and gated those to the vocal performance from the actor. So I had all these layers of like the actor's voice. See if this pen works. Try that. So these are the QuickTime movies that I'm looking to up here, which are just visual animations. They're like, you know, 30 frames or 15 frames, I can't remember how long they are, about a second long. And then this would be like the actor's vocalization would be one of these tracks, and then these would be all the different layers, rock tracks that I put. And so I bounced all these out, ran them through whatever plugins I needed, and then all these stems, which I exported into Kima for like a real-time process. So on this one, there's two actors' voices. So these are the actors' voices up there, and these are the different rock players underneath. It's just learning movements.
That's still me.
So the sound all played together. So what I would do is put Pro Tools to record, and then just kind of have this repeating through and just playing like a series, like 15 vocalizations for each class of emotion that the creature would have. And then I would just record all this in, play all this stuff back, play the sliders, adjust levels, and then what I would do is, once I got a couple hundred of these things, 5 minutes long, I'd go through and count for gold and take the ones that work the most to convey that emotion. So. And you get the idea. So that's sort of a rock elemental that you can cross into the game. Okay. Next game, Diablo 3. That was a lot of fun to work on. It was one of my favorite games, Diablo, when I was starting out in video games. The thing that we had to do for this one, we had to create there's tons of demons that you fight against in all the levels of the game, and the one that I really liked that turned out really, really well using actually his chemo was this one called Demonic Hellbearer. And I don't know if people have actually played Diablo 3, but it's in Act 3, and you have this big castle that they're running through. It's got like ramparts, and there's this huge monster that, like, if this is a person, these monsters like this big. And it kind of just climbs up the wall and spits out acid and little demons that come out called demon troopers that you fight against. So again, had sound like you haven't seen it, you haven't heard it before. Had sound really demonic and creepy, really evil. We recorded actors, got them in the booth, and it's a great vocal actor called Fred Tadashore that we used to come in and read for this guy. We also layered in a whole bunch of different animals and fire and rock, and there's pigs and horses and a bunch of other stuff in there. Again, I did a lot of pre-processing before I went into Kino, and this was again like actors' vocals, and then all the different layers as far as whether it be fire or pig or horse or whatever we had threw in the blender, basically. There's the patch right there. That's for ribbon buttons, sound buttons. Go into reverb and then spit out and then re-record it back into the Pro Tools kit. Can't tell me what I think, so I'm down here real quick, sorry. This is it. Okay, and this is the sound. That's pretty fun. The last game that I've worked on is the expansion for Warcraft, Mists of Pandaria, which comes out in about 2 weeks. Again, another demon you need to fight. These guys are actually called the Shop, and there's different versions of these guys. This one's actually called, this is actually a smaller variant of Shop. across in the game. Again, we reported some actors again. We mixed it with the usual animals, cast suspects, usual suspects. Export all layers in Schema, and then use the Wacom tablet to perform real-time mixing. So I thought I was going to use the Wacom to actually do that in real time, but I figured it was too many variables. So I figured I wouldn't do it, because I just thought it would be more streamlined if I didn't do it in real time. But basically, these are all the different layers again. Yeah, vocal, actor vocal stuff, gigs, a whole bunch of different vocalizations. And do patch, which again is 2 samples, one with delay, and then one song with reverb, and then all mixed up. And I'm not quite sure this is going to put back for pitch, but. Next, the game that worked on was, that used came on was StarCraft 2. And there was already a pre-existing sound processing made for the adjective that you find in the game. And when you come across the game, you actually have to revive it. And so the sound that I made was actually based on one of the presets that I had looked at. And you go through the library and kind of educate yourself on, well, might we use this one? Maybe. But you have to go through there and just kind of listen to all of them and go, oh, that's what that is. That's what that is. That's what that is. So after going through a lot of them, I came across something and said, you know what, I can keep that back on mind if ever need makes a sideboard that's not for function problem. Basically, so I took the sound of the original dialogue, which already had some cool processing on it, and then I made it sound like it was trying to reboot. So this is just a straight patch from the Chemo library. I guess I clicked off the bottom, but probably know what this one's called. I think it's like, yeah, it's this tiny sort of thing, I can't remember. Anyway, so I just loaded in did a spectral analysis of the sound, and then loaded up into this guy. And let me see if this one should be. Sorry. We're doing it.
Next, on choice, activate officer, civilian prospector, founder and leader of the Santa Clara territory, status, criminal, accessing intercepted transmission, 0081 to 008. Next, on choice, activate officer, civilian prospector, founder and leader of the Santa Clara territory, status, criminal, accessing intercepted transmission, 0081 to 0086 alpha. Next, on choice, activate officer, civilian prospector, founder of the status, criminal, accessing intercepted transmission, 0081 to 0086 alpha. Next, on
you
choice.
guys just kind of play with the sliders that were exposed and try to make it recorded in your vocals and some of those like little glitches, like, oh, that one, and then took all those outtakes and then strung them together and exported back out as files. So these ones are pretty tame to the ones that I actually like ended up actually in the game, because I did also post-process it in post afterwards, but this was 90% of it. Time? Keep going, or you guys hungry? You guys? Keep going? Yeah, okay. Another one was Infamous that we worked on. Again, we did sound design for the linear cinematics. We also recorded a whole bunch of Foley in our Foley room at Sony. And then we came up with some sounds in the cinematics that the in-game team up at Sucker Punch wanted to use in-game. So ultimately, the stuff we made for cinematics actually turned out to be the sounds for the game for those powers. So I don't know if you guys have played with this or not, but basically the hero of the game is called Cole, and he wakes up and he has these electrical like superpowers. So there aren't a lot of sound effects libraries out there for electrical sound effects, and all the sound effects that are quote-unquote electrical sound effects have been used to death. We weren't going to record any because I didn't want to die. And at lunch I could tell a funny story about being baby is almost killing himself. Recorded, so I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was who also works at Sony at the time, called Phil Kovac, who's now at Naughty Dog, and we were talking about, okay, just please don't use that Premiere Edition zap sound, don't, I'm like, well, I can do this, I can do that with it, I can do all those sort of things, and he goes, why don't you do the styrofoam trick? And I'm like, what's styrofoam trick? And this is what's good, having a network with really talented sound designers, is that when you're stuck and they have quandary about something, they'll be like, oh yeah, just use that trick, and oh yeah, everyone knows that. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, styrofoam. So how did you get styrofoam? You first. So basically he just said, well, you take 2 blocks of styrofoam, like when you buy a TV or anything, it comes with big blocks of styrofoam. And you kind of put pressure against them, and you kind of build up that pressure, and you kind of slide them off each other, and it's kind of like equivalent to like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing. And I thought he was kind of pulling my leg. I'm like, So what happened was I actually I did it. We had just bought a TV, and procrastinator, one of those guys who always keeps the boxes for everything kind of thing. And when are you going to throw that out? Come on, that kind of thing. And got these pieces of styrofoam and brought home a recorder and went into my garage, and I was like, never ever gonna work. And I think after about 10 minutes, right when I was about to give up, and I'm like, I got some interesting sounds, but not anything that would be like for electricity. And then, I think I got up, just like adrenaline. I was angry. I'm like, this is working. I'm going to kill Phil, all that sort of stuff. And finally, it made this magical sound. I'm like, God, he wasn't kidding. And so once, and then, of course, when you do that one rub, the styrofoam hits the floor, so you try to remember, you go, wow, that was great, and then you look at the styrofoam like, shit, what did we do? Kind of thing. So you look at it and frantically try to repeat it, and after about 2 hours of, rubbing the styrofoam together, and then my wife comes out the garage, and there's probably like 1.5 inches of styrofoam all over the garage, and why are you doing it? You're cleaning all this up. I know. But I finally got these sounds, and again, after about 2 hours of doing this, I probably had like a dozen, just like these sounds. And I took those, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to bring those into Kima, and I just granulated the Jesus out of them. And it's the lather, rinse, repeat kind of thing where I just kept on going. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. What if I do that? What if I do that? What if I do it again? What if I do it again? What if I do it again? What if I do that in reverse? What if I do it this? All the time, Pro Tools is just, running, so I'm amassing this huge, making this huge library of sounds, electrical sound effects. It's actually the wrong slide. This is actually for a couple or two things, but I couldn't find my infamous one. But it was basically the same thing. I got 4 layers of the styrofoam rubs that I had already processed in Kima, recorded with Pro Tools, found the nuggets, exported them again as layers, loaded them into these train clouds, and then played them. So this is some projectile buys. So there's a whole bunch of powers. It's like, when cars come on, cars come off, when he's channeling, electrical powers, and then also when he shoots a bolt of energy toward a target that was invited toward that target.
I'm sorry, did you say you're using sample clouds or grant? Those are sample clouds.
Those are sample clouds, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance if this is the wrong thing. So maybe a little more volume, I guess. And basically, I'm just dragging the timeline. I can go as fast as slow as I want, and I can, forward, backwards, and I can do this all day long, and just recording all this things, and I can just go through it. And again, I could just go through and I can just hit the randomize button, and then see what it sounds like, and just sometimes get a good result. I just hit the randomize button and the program would just be recording all of this straight out. I'd be like, okay, well that's power number 1. Sometimes they get a result from them, sometimes not. But always keep tapering, I guess. So I think that's it as far as my audio stuff. My line. Kima, for me, in summary, did I not kill that? Okay. Well, it's very open-ended. That's what I like about it. I kind of think of it as like a plug-in factory kind of thing. So instead of like machine, there's a plugin that I'm plugging that this and this and this, and writing emails to developers. Hey, pretty cool. The plugin you have, well, if you just added this and this to it, and you never hear anything back from them, and just trick it, that kind of thing. So this way you can kind of just go out and make it yourself, or try to make it yourself, or go through one of the presets that's in the Kima Sound Library and tweaking it until it's to your liking. The new systems, by the way, all All these, except for the Mississippi area and the yellow ones, are all done on my Bar 320, which has a 3-card system, the 10-card system. And the Pacarana that we have now at work is, I'm just really blown away at how much power that you actually have. And I know it's capable of doing a lot more than I've ever done with it, but hopefully moving forward, I'll continue to learn more and make more complicated patches. I really like working with the wave channel. I don't understand why I didn't do that long ago when it was first put into the application. But it's an amazing way to, I mean, you can take a whole bunch of sounds and just like do that with your pen and just do get all these great different mixes of sounds. It's just amazing. I use mainly in conjunction. I kind of think of it as like a programmable effects processor. So I always have stuff either going through it or coming from it, or whether that be a synthesizer or a microphone or output tools like you saw in those examples. It's very deep. Again, I kind of touched on, it's for me at the time I was looking for like an equivalent to a plugin. And for me, at least, it wasn't. So I had a steep learning curve and realization on that, actually I had to spend some time to get some good results out of it. But I think in the amount of time that I have put into it, which honestly I have to say it hasn't been a Herculean amount of time, I've gotten some really good results that I'm really happy with. And once I get some downtime, I plan on getting or reading some of the science book that Jeff had which I own, but so that's basically it. And then thank you. Again, if anybody wants to contact me, it's Johnson@blizzard.com. And thank you very much.